Good afternoon. I'm Lynn Holt-Heide with the American Institutes for Research, and I'm here representing three nationally federally funded centers by the Office of Special Education Programs. All three centers are designed to support state education agencies and educator preparation programs as they improve their efforts to support the education of students with disabilities. The three centers are the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders, the Cedar Center, as well as the National Center for Systemic Improvement. In this unique role that I play on all three centers, I see firsthand the oftentimes disconnect between reform initiatives, where in fact there are ways that we can leverage and connect our efforts so that the hoped for outcomes are more likely to be realized. One such initiative is the Excellent Educators for All initiative, to where states were required to submit state equity plans that outline strategies and steps that state stakeholders can take to ensure that all students, most particularly students in the minority status, are provided access to excellent educators. And although students with disabilities were not specifically called out in the requirements related to the state equity plans, what we found in the support that we provided through through the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders, is that oftentimes through the root cause analysis, as well as the data analysis, that students with disabilities and their lack of access to effective educators emerges as an issue that needs to be addressed. And when I talk about access to effective educators, I'm not talking about just access to effective special educators, but obviously with the large portion of our students receiving services in the general education classroom, it's critically important that students with disabilities also have access to excellent educators who can support them within the general education classroom. So in recognition that educator preparation and support is really the building block to ensure that we can create a workforce of highly effective educators, many of the state equity plans, about 30% of them in fact, had included preparation, reform and preparation, certification and licensure, induction and mentoring, and essentially the professional learning system that supports them once they get into their employment. That these are efforts that states recognize and the stakeholders that they were working with that really could create the building blocks to ensure that we have a highly effective workforce. So through the collaboration between the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders, the Cedar Center, as well as NCSI, have been supporting states in both the refinement and implementation of these equity plans, specifically with a focus on students with disabilities. And specifically in the Cedar work, we were creating partnerships to ensure that all teachers are better prepared and supported to meet the needs of students with disabilities within the educator preparation programs, the state education agencies, as well as the local districts. So we know that preparation and support are the cornerstone to improving both the recruitment and retention of educators, though we know it's not easy work. We all know that while all parties, the state, the preparing programs, and the districts to which the candidates are employed, all have a vested interest in the success of the preparation of candidates. The policies, the regulations, the priorities, and needs don't always create the infrastructure for shared ownership. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Lindsay Hayes at the American Institutes for Research, who also works on the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders, as well as the Cedar Center, and Mary Little, who is a professor at the University of Central Florida, who has been engaged in efforts through the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders, and also in the Cedar efforts in the state of Florida, who will share with you a little bit more about some efforts that states and educator preparation programs are conducting to ensure that we have better prepared teachers, both general and special ed, as well as leaders, so that they are able and prepared to adequately support the learning of all the students in their diverse classrooms. If teachers feel success, if they feel like they have the skills to be successful with students, and that they have the support to continually hone in on their skills and then become an expert in their craft, then they're more likely to stay. And then hopefully the shortage problem that we're having currently with educators will be mitigated. Thank you.
Lindsay Hayes. I work on the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders and the Cedar Center. As Lynn mentioned, there are several state educator preparation policies that can play a significant role in improving equitable access. And in order to set the stage for a discussion of those policy lever areas related to educator preparation, I want to take a moment to recenter us on a vision of ideal teacher preparation. So it begins with recruiting promising, diverse candidates into educator preparation programs. During that preparation programs, we hope that candidates engage in rigorous coursework and that coursework is grounded in evidence-based practices for all learners. We hope that coursework is then applied and reinforced through clinical and practicum experiences that are supervised by experienced mentor teacher leaders. At the conclusion of the preparation program, we hope that candidates pursue licensure and certification by meeting standards that are aligned with the knowledge, skills, and competencies that they need in order to serve all learners. These candidates demonstrate their mastery of these concepts through performance assessments that signify that the candidate has achieved classroom readiness. Our newly credentialed teachers then transition into induction and mentoring programs that are designed to provide them the support they need to navigate their early careers. These teachers then receive ongoing feedback on their performance through educator evaluation systems that promote regular classroom observations, cycles of feedback, and data conversations with peers, administrators, and teacher leaders. This feedback is then used to create a customized trajectory of professional learning that helps teachers move their practice to the next level. And finally, we hope that educators are recognized for their ongoing growth and development through policies related to licensure and certification renewal, tiered licensure, compensation, and career advancement into leadership roles. So I just shared with you a vision of what an ideal teacher preparation trajectory would look like. And we do know that there is a role that state educator preparation policy has to play in achieving this vision. Educator preparation policies that recognize that growth and development occurs over the course of an educator's career continuum can significantly contribute to long-term recruitment and retention, which in turn supports equitable access for all students, including students with disabilities. We know this is incredibly relevant and timely because the majority of our students with disabilities are being served in the general education setting. Some of the some of the educator preparation policies that I mentioned deal with a number of policy lever areas, one of which is licensure and certification. Our vision for licensure and certification is that these standards are aligned with rigorous knowledge, skills, and competencies that teachers need in order to serve all students. And it is also our hope that assessments are aligned with these standards, and these assessments can help us judge readiness for classrooms. Licensure and certification policy can also be implemented through tiered licensure, or recognizing that teachers advance in their growth and development across the career continuum, and certification levels should reflect that. For instance, progressing from an initial teacher license to an advanced teacher license. Many of these recommendations around the policy lever area of licensure certification are discussed in the Promises to Keep report, which was a joint publication between the Cedar Center and the Council of Chief State School Officers. We encourage you to take a look at that document on the Cedar Center website or the CCSSO website. Another policy lever area that I mentioned related to educator preparation in that vision of an ideal preparation trajectory is an induction and mentoring. The idea is that this policy lever area helps to smooth the transition between pre-service and in-service preparation for teachers. Again, recognizing that career growth and development does not end when an educator exits a preparation program. However, it is an ongoing process. This policy lever area helps promote joint accountability between educator preparation programs and their placement districts, and create shared accountability for support of those teachers. The final policy lever area that I want to talk about that can be implemented at a state level is educator evaluation. Educator evaluation gives us an opportunity to focus on professional learning and giving teachers the ongoing feedback they need to improve. This is especially important because we know that all educators, both special and general education, are going to be serving students with disabilities in their classroom. If educator evaluation systems are designed in a way that yields feedback about a teacher's performance, related to serving students with disabilities, then that feedback can translate into a customized trajectory of professional learning that helps educators grow into the next stage of their career. So in the GTL and CEDAR Center support to states, we have an opportunity to influence all of these policy lever areas: licensure and certification, educator evaluation, induction and mentoring, and professional learning, in order to influence policies that promote a consistent set of expectations that are coherently articulated across all these policy lever areas and that support educators at all stages of the career continuum. When this consistency and alignment is present, it creates the conditions to support recruitment and retention of all educators, serving all students both with and without disabilities. For example, in our work through CEDAR, currently in the state of Illinois, we are revisiting the idea of licensure and certification for special education teachers to see how we can reinforce these ideas. And in the state of Florida, we are looking at championing policy that leverages the recertification process to continue to grow the skill set of novice educators. So while it's easy to communicate and appreciate this need for coherence, we have to recognize that this is not easy work. These policies and practices sometimes perpetuate work in silos at the state level, and we know that these silos exist sometimes for practical and logistical reasons. Fortunately, the work of the GTL Center and the CEDAR Center is to facilitate a level of trust, collaboration, and coordination across multiple stakeholders at the various levels, including State Department personnel, IHEs, and district and LEA representatives, in order to create the conditions for shared ownership, beginning at recruitment and continuing onward through the trajectory through mentoring, induction, evaluation, and professional learning. Next, we're going to hear from one of our CEDAR Center IHE partners about how this exciting work is affecting educator preparation programs.
Hello, my name is Mary Little, and I'm a professor at the University of Central Florida. I am honored to share the story of collaboration with you with our work that has been ongoing at the University of Central Florida and with multiple stakeholders as implementing policy, practice, evidence-based practice, and structures that we know have the goal of creating the most knowledgeable, dedicated, skillful teachers long-term that will make positive impacts for all of our children with and without disabilities. Within the state of Florida, we are a member of the CEDAR Intensive Instructional Policy Group for Teachers and Leaders, which has been an incredible opportunity to have input and learning related to policy and procedures to assure that the promises to keep for all of our children are actualized within our pre-service programs and affecting our in-service programs and professional learning as well. At the University of Central Florida, throughout our college, we've used a structure, a professional learning community structure for several years across our college so that discussions about current policy, instructional practices, new policies and procedures are learned about, known, and discussed for full implementation within our individual programs within our college. When the opportunity to learn more about the Good to Great findings was disseminated by the AIR and all the work going on with the great teachers and leaders, we focused on those publications and the materials available to us to really take a look at our programs for our discussion starters, but more importantly, how does that impact our programs from pre-service, through clinical experiences, and then through induction. Our discussions included our colleagues not only throughout our content programs in the college, but also our colleagues in clinical experiences, our colleagues from the State Department, and our colleagues from our local school districts to assure that the collaboration and the important conversations occurred across multiple stakeholders to assure that as teachers were developing throughout their continuum as described in this professional learning communities and continuums, that our teachers would continue to learn about, implement with high fidelity, and assure that positive outcomes, improved outcomes for all of the students in their classrooms, students both with and without disabilities, were being maximized by all of our graduates. The professional learning community structure was an incredible structure for us to use as almost special interest groups, if you will. So when we were talking about developing good to great, when we were talking about specific promises to keep and new frameworks and evidence-based practices that we knew that we wanted to infuse into our courses, that just seemed like a natural structure to use, so that our monthly meetings across content areas, across professors, across instructors, across roles and agencies were all focused then on novel practices, new evidence-based practices like frameworks of universal design for learning, like frameworks of the multi-tiered system of support, like the evidence-based practices that have been researched and are available through the Cedar Center. We also wanted to have deep conversations about how do we use innovation configurations to actually talk about this continuing and deepening knowledge and implementation of the knowledge and skills that our teacher candidates need and need to continue practicing across multiple contexts to absolutely improve the outcomes for all of our students with disabilities. The opportunity to collaborate with stakeholders and policy members, and through the coordination efforts of our colleagues at the Cedar Center, we could not have completed these tasks. Right now we have a small grant through the Cedar Center and our State Department of Florida Department of Education that we are reconceptualizing and reinvigorating all of our courses, infusing them with evidence-based practices, universal design for learning, using the innovation configuration across each of our professional learning courses as well as each of our content areas. In fact, our content area teachers are looking at the standards and competencies from the Council for Exceptional Children to see how some of their content will align with some of the standards to assure that our teacher candidates in a social studies instructional class, a mathematics pedagogy class, clinical experiences, opportunities, no matter where their placements are, that they are learning the standards both of the content, the high rigorous standards of the content, whether it's mathematics, science, social studies, and the critical competencies from the Council for Exceptional Children and what we know are evidence-based practices for working and teaching our children with disabilities. It has been an incredible opportunity to think about the growth and development of our teachers across the continuum so that we at the University of Central Florida and all of us at our universities really will actualize the promises to keep vision that's been identified through partnerships from CEDAR, CCSO, and the rest of us who are deeply committed to the highest professional learning for our teachers through our continued professional learning. Thanks for the opportunity to share.